coach. But when you're on the elite company list of college football head coaches, and only 5 of the nation's top active D1 and D2 coaches have a higher winning percentage than our new head coach, that 81.3% winning sounds pretty darn good.
But I had 101 inquiries within 2 days about this job, from sitting FBS coaches to and assistants to Division II, Division III, NAIA. But I had to have help. I had to put a committee together just to sort through this pure number of emails and texts. And listen, to be successful at Mercer, you got to be a grinder. And so that's what we were looking for. So let me tell you a little bit how we did this. So we had 4 criteria that we were looking for. We had to have a current head coach. Somebody had been in that seat before. We needed a winner. And we had some coaches that had won it every other year, or they had had one good year and moved on to the next job. But we scratched that and said, Charlie, we want a proven winner. And somebody that every program they touched, they took to the next level. And then last but not least, we wanted somebody who had trusted the academic process and really wanted to build character in young men so that they could take that Mercer degree and go to the next level and change wherever they may end in life.
Coach Mike Jacobs, new head coach for the Mercer Bears in the Southern Conference, one of the top premier teams to play college football in this beautiful conference, came back not too long ago, was discontinued. Program started back up. Some great coaches follow down this line, and then now you're the most recent one. Coach, how are you doing today? Let's go ahead and start off with that.
I'm doing fantastic, man. The sun's shining. The Bears had a great workout this morning. We finally got the full staff put together, and so things are going really well.
I'm glad you mentioned about your staff. I know I've been kind of keeping up with social media, seeing the new posts and whatnot. What is it like kind of going through with hiring guys like that? Because you come from another university. I know obviously you might bring some guys from there, or you may decide to kind of just start new. How do you decide that whole process?
I think you have to, you got to look at the whole picture, right? And this was a unique thing because it wasn't a complete tear down and rebuild, right? So, you had a group of guys here on staff that had a bunch of success, and you got to see if they're going to fit with some of the people you're bringing. I have a lot of guys that have worked for me at one point or another, or have followed me at a couple different stops that we know and trust and know how I want things done, or have been a big part of my success as a head coach because of how they function as an assistant. And so, you look at all those pieces and you try to put the best group of 10 guys together that you can. And then really, as you move up in levels, the amount of auxiliary staff and support staff that you're able to hire. And we have what we think is a darn good one here at Mercer.
Yep. All right. So I really want to start from a little bit kind of closer to memory lane, is talking about, the kid that grew up from Maumee, Ohio, if I'm saying that correctly. Not a small city, plenty of notorious people, from authors, actors, Heisman Trophy winners, everything of that nature. Did you ever envision you probably the next coach to come out of Maumee, Ohio, and another Ohio guy?
Yeah, I mean, I knew at a young age, right? I had spent some time in West Virginia as well. My dad was a Division I coach. He was in D1 for 38 plus years. The unique thing was he was on Don Nealon's staff for 15 of those seasons at West Virginia. So spent about 8 years in Morgantown prior to my folks splitting up, and then spent the summers there. So kind of knew early on I wanted to get into coaching, and so between the people that had an influence on me there at Maumee, and then my time at Ohio State, and kind of being around my dad a lot, I knew it's really all I've ever wanted to do. So,
and you mentioned it too about being at Ohio State. If I'm not mistaken, you were a walk-on, and what was that experience like? Kind of going through that then compared to what it's like now for a walk-on to be coming on to a college program.
Yeah, my situation was a little unique, with my dad working there, right? And the scholarship limits were different at the time. So you used to have 25 in a class and 85 on the roster. And since my dad was an employee, I obviously got to go for free. So create a little bit of a niche. I was actually put on athletic scholarship after my second season when I became the starting long snapper, and, a pretty consistent backup in the offensive line room. But, I think it's different. walk-ons back then, they had to eat a separate, they couldn't eat training table and do some of the things that are afforded guys now, who are putting in the exact same work. So I think it's actually, that situation's improved for folks as they've changed the rules on some of those things over the years.
So if I were to ask you to go out to the field and then do a long snap to, either to a holder or to a punter, do you think you still got it in you, or?
I'm great for one rep. I got one rep in me of each. The short snap's a little more consistent, I'm sure, than the long snap. We may have to go at 12 yards instead of 15, but yeah, I can still get that thing back there a little bit.
Nice, nice. And I know you played under Jim Tressler. That was your head coach. What was it like playing under him? And then, just kind of watching how he operates, and then how have you been able to use that in your coaching career thus far?
Yeah, it really even kind of predates that. I've been really lucky. Again, my dad was at West Virginia, and Don Nealon was the head coach. He was a Hall of Famer. And then I played for John Cooper my first 4 seasons at Ohio State, and also in the Hall of Fame. And then obviously Coach Tressel. And I think the thing that stood out really about Coach Tress was just there wasn't a part of that program that he wasn't intimately involved in or knew exactly what was going on at all times, and not in like a micromanaging way. Just he had a pulse on everything, and I think that's what made him great. And I think he did a great job at creating a family atmosphere and really allowing kids to tell their story on kind of why and how they ended up at Ohio State, and made us much closer as a football team.
Mm-hmm. And I know you mentioned that your dad, of course, he was a coach as well. Was that the kind of the factor that kicked in later down the road once you finished playing college football and you said, all right, I want to be a coach? Or was there another career path that you were getting ready to go down before you decided you wanted to be a coach?
No, that's really all I've ever wanted to do was coach, to be completely honest with you. I really couldn't envision myself, doing anything on the 9 to 5 world. And it's really been my passion. And every step I've taken since I graduated has kind of been to move up and on in the business. And and like I said, I kind of knew at a really young age, it's really what I want to do with my life, to affect others.
And now a lot of people don't kind of get to see what it's like to be a coach coming out, as a GA, starting from that life, and then rising up to be a position coach or an analyst, or then actually becoming a position coach, then hitting the coordinator, then hitting the head coaching spot. Talk to me more about what it's like to go through that process. How stressful can it be, or how fortunate were you if you had that that luxury of being able to just find a good landing spot and then continue to rise up the ranks?
Yeah, I mean, the path has changed a little bit, right? Like, you used to have to really, there was just so many fewer opportunities back then, right? Like, so, I was fortunate. So basically, as soon as I got done playing, I played my last game in January of 2001, and Jim Bridge was the guy that had been our graduate assistant my senior year, and he had moved on to Eastern Michigan as the full-time offensive line coach. He knew I wanted to get into coaching, and he afforded me that opportunity. And I had to be a part of I got to be a part of a really good staff there. And you learn pretty quickly. Like, I grew up around it. My dad was in the big time the whole time, and that first job at Eastern, I'm vacuuming the team room and putting table skirts on, and all other duties as assigned, right? And so especially even then with less support staff, you're just asked to wear a bunch of different hats. And so that was a really good experience for me, and you get your feet wet right away. And then I went on, had a full-time job at Wilmington College, a Division III school, and then got back into the Power Five as a graduate assistant for Joe Tiller at Purdue. And anymore nowadays, there's 4 GAs and 6 or 8 analysts. And I mean, there was one when I started in 2005, which really isn't all that long ago. There was one offensive GA and 1 defensive GA, and that was it. I think after the 2006 season, I think they added a GA on each side of the football. So the number of opportunities to get into college football has increased, but it's still ultra competitive. And playing at a high level, and then obviously having a parent who's in the business or was in the business prior to his passing certainly helped get my foot in the door.
Mm-hmm. And from being around all those coaches and then them kind of pouring into you, and then you also learning from them, how has that shaped your coaching philosophy to what it is today? What exactly would you describe it to be if anyone else were to ask you, like, hey, what's your philosophy for coaching?
Yeah, my philosophy really, I rely heavily on the fundamentals of football. I think people give them lip service. I think they get too tied up in wanting to call plays and play design, and all that stuff's important. But I really believe in the fundamentals of running, blocking, and tackling from an on the field perspective. And then just like anything in any business in any walk of life, you have to work really hard to develop strong, meaningful relationships, both with the people you work for and the people that you're coaching. And so my philosophy is to have a strong focus on the fundamentals of the game while working hard to develop you know ties that bind off the field with the kids and the coaches and the administration.
Mm-hmm. Can you think back to maybe one of your more recent stops, or any of your stops in general, where you've learned maybe a crucial lesson in coaching that you've been able to reapply every single stop that you've had where you are now? Something, maybe a story that may be funny, it may not be funny, but is there something that comes to mind that you always think of?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of life lessons that were learned during COVID. I think my time at Lenore Ryan, it started right as COVID was kind of kicking off, and so the order of operation and maybe just you know normally when you take over a program, you come in, you draw a hard line, you get your stuff going. And, college wasn't real fun for kids during COVID. And a lot of them had not only their college careers interrupted, but some of them had even missed their high school careers. So it really changed my approach some in the sense that I didn't want it to be miserable if we had canceled our fall season. And a lot of times, a lot of the area they got to interact and be with one another was when they were at practice. So, it certainly changed my approach to taking over the program. And then, I think one of the lessons, period, is that no one player or person coach wise is bigger than the program. And you really have to default on always putting the program and the university ahead of everything in every decision that you make. And when you do that, you make the right decisions, even when they're hard. And I think that's a lesson that's good for anybody is just make sure that you're putting the program and the institution first in all aspects.
And that's a really good point too. That kind of brings me to closer to now when you're talking about the things that you learned, and then also looking at where you are again now at Mercer. When did you get that call? When did that opportunity? What was it? When was it presented to you? I'm assuming it had to be after the season was over because I believe Coach Cronic was still coaching at that point. But when was that opportunity presented?
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird time, to be honest with you. It was the middle of January, really. They had reached out, and I had some mutual interest. I turned down a bunch of, I wasn't even taking phone calls. I mean, the reality is I truly believe Lenore Ryan's one of the best jobs in Division II football. My family loved the city of Hickory. We had a beautiful life there, and I wasn't in a hurry to leave it. And so I wasn't even entertaining certain calls and inquiries just because I value my family's happiness and our life outside of football. And but when Mercer inquired, this is a job that's really too good to pass up, in my opinion. And anytime I evaluate any job, the first thing I look at is I try to evaluate the
Mm-hmm.
administration's commitment to athletics in general, but football specifically. And I really feel we have that here at Mercer with President Underwood and Jim Cole, our athletic director, and really just the campus community and Macon in general. Like, they are bought in to Mercer being a winner. And then I look at the other things as we look at and evaluate jobs, and that's can you attract good players? And I think we can do that here. And the geographic proximity to really some of the best high school football in the country is right in our backyard. And
Let's believe
yeah,
it.
and so you kind of put those two things together, and it made there was significant interest in both parties, obviously.
Have you and the family been able to go downtown to Macon and got to get to walk around and find out, your new favorite dinner spot or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I said in the press conference, I've been trying to eat my way through downtown, and certainly have a few that we keep coming back to, but we've that's a big part of who we are. We try to be involved in the community that we're living in, and whether it's buying local, shopping local, or just being out and being seen, that's something that we are. So yeah, we've gotten out and about a little bit.
Yeah, and I've asked this question quite a bit about just about every coach I've talked to regarding the transfer portal and NIL, and I know it's a very touchy topic. And I'm curious to how you combat it, with dealing with that type of situation. The transfer portal, as beautiful as it can be, can also be very messy. Same thing with the NIL. We have seen some coaches decide to leave, head coaching responsibilities to be coordinators or position coaches elsewhere because it's gone too much.
Mm-hmm.
How have you been able to handle it? How have you been able to stand firm and strong in your beliefs of how a team should be ran? How have you combated, this kind of growing phenomenon?
Yeah, I mean, it changes daily, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? The portal, whether it's the windows and the opportunities, I mean, I really believe it goes back to relationships. So, and if you're able to establish strong relationships, and here at Mercer, we're able to offer a really high-end education where I believe the kids that are coming here aren't just coming for football; they're coming to get the education, and I think that Mercer degree means something to them. And I think we've only had one kid go in the portal since we took the job, and so I'm not naive to think that there won't be attrition. And my belief is still that you have to build the foundation of your program with high school football players, and more importantly, you have to develop them once they're there. And then if they move on, but you're in the method of developing folks. So there's a next man up mentality. And then, I think you need to be in the portal to enhance and shore up any holes that you may have or any deficiencies you may have in your program. But I think it's really hard to build a program exclusively on transfers. And, I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe in being in the portal, and I believe in providing opportunities, and I believe in kids having the opportunity to explore other things. But I also believe in building it out with high school kids to start.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of last couple questions here. Now you've been there for what, about maybe a couple months in Mercer, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit shorter than that.
About 5 weeks.
Yeah, about to say a little bit shorter than that now. But what kind of culture are you looking to establish? Are you just looking to start new? Or are you looking just to build up upon what was already, established before you got there?
Yeah, I mean, the unique thing I have is this is the second program in a row I've followed Coach Cronick, and I have a lot of respect for Drew and how he runs his programs. The kids, they do things the right way off the field. We certainly have some strong beliefs on how to do some stuff, but this isn't a tear down and rebuild. This is a team that won the most games in school history and made it to the playoffs for the first time in school history. And so, we don't want to scrap the things that helped them get there, but we'll certainly put our own spin on things. And certain things will look a little bit different, but the foundation of doing things right, being in class, being on time, things that are life skills, sports transferable things are ultimately what build strong programs, as well as the relationships. And so, this isn't a team that this is going to be a complete culture reset, because they had strong culture, and we just need to find, where do the things that I believe in as a head coach fit into what's already been working really well for kids who have been in the program at Mercer, and then enhancing them.
All right. And then the last thing I'm going to ask for you, I want you to finish this phrase for me. All right. For Mercer to win the Southern Conference in 2020 for the 2024 season, the Mercer Bears have to
run the football, stop the run, play solid, sound special teams, and stay healthy.
That's great, Coach. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. Definitely looking forward to watching the Bears play this season, watching your leadership and seeing how you guys take off. And good luck to you for this season. I'm pretty sure our paths will more likely cross again when you got to come up to Greenville. I'm maybe working that game. We'll find out. It depends if Ingles will allow me to have that one. But looking forward to talking to you in the future.
No, I enjoyed it, Cole. Thanks for all the coverage you provide at this level in the conference, and I appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you, sir.